going to check the sound, make sure it's working. It says I'm live. Says I'm live. Check the sound. Okay, we're good. All right. We are here. And I'm going to chillax for a few minutes, doggy. Wait for people to get here. Man, I saw the most horrific video on Twitter. I'm not even going to tell you what it was because I don't think you want to see it. It's sad. And then I foolishly clicked on another one that was almost as sad. And then I said, you know what? I have to look at something not sad before I start this stream. So I quickly went over to YouTube and finally found some puppy videos. It was nice to see puppies. Right, Joan? It's always good to see little pups run around doing crazy things. They're just so, like, dogs are already so happy. But then doggies in puppy form, my God. They're just pure joy. It's just pure joy to see a puppy. I've yet to see a puppy you'd go, ugh. You know what I mean? Like, puppies are just amazing. And it doesn't matter the breed of dog either. That's the amazing part. Although you have to be careful. I remember when Joan was a puppy and her teeth were just so damn sharp. Oof. And she just didn't know. She just didn't understand. And every once in a while, ow, damn it, I've cut my finger on the dog's teeth. But she understands now, and now has no teeth, unfortunately. No, she has a few teeth left. I give her the toothpaste every night, but it doesn't really help her tooth situation much anymore. Let me get that on the screen. Oh, I got something on my screen. It's like dirt or something. Anyhow, so tonight, as suggested by Carl, who may or may not be in here, we're going to do reboots. Movie reboots. So I'm going to just continue to talk about my day and the pregame. Continue to do a little pregame warm-up for a few minutes. See if anybody drifts in here. Had a great weekend. Went to the Winehorse Winery and did my talk on the Jersey Devil. And that went really well. Like, I couldn't have asked for a better crowd. I got there, and it's just a big room. And the room was kind of noisy, and they said they had great acoustics, which it turned out they did. And I was just like, oh man, are these people even going to listen to me? Because they were all drinking. You know, wine, but fancier. But, and my folks and a few of my relatives showed up to watch me. And so I was really worried that I would embarrass myself a little bit, like nobody would listen to me or I'd have to shout over the din. But the moment I started, these very polite people shut right up. It was amazing. And I had perfect silence throughout the entire presentation. JEC, hi, hi, hi. Good to see you. So I did my Jersey Devil presentation at the White Horse Winery, and it went great. And my relatives and parents were impressed. I don't think they've seen that one before. They've seen me perform. Back when I was in the improv group, they came out a couple of times. But that's a little different. And they've seen me do other performances, and they've seen me at comic book conventions and stuff like that. But they hadn't seen me do the Jersey Devil talk, so that was kind of cool. And then I went to WildCon in Wildwood, New Jersey. And for those of you who don't know what Wildwood is, the locals here in South Jersey call it the Wildwood Childwood. And the reason we call it Childwood is you go to a bunch of different places in the Jersey Shore for fun. So you go to Atlantic City to gamble. You go to Ocean City, which is New Jersey. Ocean City, which is more grown up. It's more for families because it's a dry town. But Wildwood isn't a dry town. And it's kind of a little cheaper. So when you're in high school, you tend to go to Wildwood. And that's why they call it Childwood. So it gets a little crazier. But it's also believe it or not, the Orlando for Canadians. Canadians love to come to Wildwood and the Jersey Shore in general, but Wildwood is a particular place for them. So rather than go, I guess, all the way to Florida, they just come to New Jersey in the summers, and they'll stay a week. And so you can see tons of Canadian plates, especially around Montreal, during the summers in Wildwood. And we often get, too, in the summers, we get immigrants who come in to work. So one year we had this huge amount of Irish people working like as waiters and waitresses and clerks and all the seasonal gigs you see at the Jersey Shore. And some of the most beautiful young Irish girls were there with amazing accents. I'm a huge fan of Irish, English, and Australian accents. And just one year, the Irish came in and they were everywhere, and it was great. But Wildwood is a mostly seasonal town. It used to be like back in the day, say 30, 40 years ago, the Jersey Shore was closed in the wintertime. Like there was nothing going on. Almost no one lived there year round. A few people did, but not a lot. These days, the towns are more year round. Arden is here. Hail Tony D. Hail Joan. Hail the chat. I'm celebrating my first anniversary on YouTube today. Congratulations. Good for you. A year of doing, it passes fast, doesn't it? It passes quickly. So normally in the wintertime at the Jersey Shore, traditionally it was dead, but these days people live year round, and so they did this show at the Wildwood Convention Center. JEC Scottish girls are cute too. Yes, another great accent. Would love to get a bevy of them to come to the Jersey Shore one year. And the best part about it too is the people who come to work in the season, they tend to be young, right? So you're not getting like old Irish people. You're getting young, hot girls, in their 20s. I mean, obviously, they have to be, I think, that old just to come across and work. Ardent, nothing beats a Newfoundlander girl. I don't know if I know that accent, but I guess it's English accents, in the realm of speaking English that I like the best. I mean, French accents are pretty good too. For women, really, if the woman's hot enough, pretty much any accent's gonna be great. JC, Newfie girls are crazy. Well, are they crazier than Russian girls? I've heard Russian girls are out of their minds. But I had a friend who dated a Russian girl, and he said, "Oh my God, I got to get out of this relationship. She's nuts. I think she's gonna stab me." But I don't know. I dated a Ukrainian girl. She was ethnically Ukrainian. She wasn't. Her dad and her mom were actually from the Ukrainian. They were descended from Ukrainian royalty, believe it or not. Ardent, a Newfoundland accent is kind of a combination of Yorkshire and Irish with some French thrown in, depending on where you are on the island. And anyhow, my Ukrainian girlfriend, she is a little nutty, I would say. She was gorgeous, though. They the hotness to crazy scale a lot of times. But so Wildwood, in the wintertime last year, they did the show, and it was okay. It didn't do too great. Wasn't a lot of people there. Oh, who's here? Storm Eyes 1981. Nothing beats a Newfie woman. Airy, a mixed bag of nuts. A little Irish, a little French. We airy. Shadow of the Raven is here. Hi, folks. That's Carl, right? You're Carl. Right. We're doing reboots. As per your suggestion. So, just to wrap up my pregame show, Wildwood was great, it turned out. JEC. How dare you at JEC? Ardent to J. I shouldn't read those. It's Ardent at JEC. How dare you? Newfoundland accents predates Canada by centuries. Ha ha ha. So the Wildwood show was great. I did really well there. There were a ton of people there. So, you know, with comic book shows, you got to build them up. And my man Dan, shout out to him, has been really doing well of late. And part of that, I think, though, is finally people are coming out. Like, a lot of people were gun shy about going out because of, you know, that which will not be named on YouTube. But yeah, Ardent, that's my Newfoundland honey over there. Stormy Eyes 1981. Oh, welcome. Welcome, Stormy. All right. So we got some people here. Let's get into the reboots and the remakes. So, to make the distinction right out the gate, a reboot, as it says here on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia is good for these lists, usually, because they're usually non-political. I mean, when you drill down into the politics of anything on Wikipedia, forget it, but stuff like this, it's usually pretty good. So films that begin established series again instead of building on previous films, or really films that do the same thing but don't build on the previous film, right? I think that would be part of it too. James Bond, I think, would technically be a reboot because they update the world events, usually. They certainly did in Pierce Bronson, and yeah, they did it with Daniel Craig. They update the technology. JEC, yeah, people are all over it. The ones who still simp for the jib are coping so hard, but everyone else seems to accept it's over. Ones who still simp for the jib. Simp for the jib. I'm not sure. You lost me. You just lost me. I haven't eaten dinner, so I'm a little punchy. I'm sure you'll enlighten me, and then I'll go, so we're looking at movies that basically started over with a new cast and something different. And whereas a remake might do something similar, but you're essentially starting over. Like saying, you know, well, I mean, it's kind of the same thing when you think about it. Or you're redoing a movie. Yeah, I guess the reboot, you're not really redoing one of the previous movies, would be the distinction. Oh, you're talking about, right, a certain medical procedure. Yes, okay. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. You know, YouTube. So reboot films. So Wikipedia's only got 125 listed, and half of them are Godzilla movies. But that's one, right? Godzilla, they usually... But a lot of them feel like remakes, too, right? You know, to me, like The Amazing Spider-Man, which is right here on the top of the list, that is definitely a remake, right? Because it's the same kind of character, but it's different. They're starting over with, in that case, Andrew Garfield. I didn't see this one. I just saw a lot of clips and then got frustrated. Ardent, yeah, the unknown virus of unknown origin. And all the superhero movies kind of do this when they switch over characters. And again, James Bond. So it's updated, but it's a different story. It's not connected really with the previous stories, but sometimes it kind of is. Because if they don't go over the origin, you're just sort of assuming, it's the same sort of origin. I think they did. They redid the thing with Andrew Garfield, or did they? I don't remember. And really, technically, the Tobey Maguire one's a remake because they did or a reboot, because they did the live-action Spider-Man series back in the 70s. Oof, oofa. That was like a guy on the side of a building, the actor or the stuntman in a Spider-Man suit doing this as they like pulled him up with like ropes, and somehow hid the ropes. I forget how they did it. JC, which reboot of Godzilla? The reboot Godzilla every decade now. Yeah. Batman Begins, good reboot. Yeah, that was a pretty good one. The Batman reboot was pretty good too. The James Bond ones usually start good. Usually the first one's really good. And then after that it kind of, the later ones, meh. JC, Amazing Spider-Man series with Garfield was terrible. Yeah, I didn't see it. I couldn't get behind Dennis Leary as one of the characters. I just couldn't. He's too much Dennis Leary in everything he does. I wish they would put him in better movies. I don't dislike him. He's a guy who should be in funny movies. He'd be great in funny movies, but they keep making him like, well, he's a big-time actor. I mean, that's partly on him, but... JC, they took footage from the Japanese Spider-Man series for that TV movie Spider-Man? Boy, it's been so long. Probably. They would do stuff like that back in the 70s because nobody would ever know. That's like when, although everybody knows about it now, back in the day, celebrities would go to Japan and make a mint doing TV commercials, but they kept it hidden because it was considered beneath a celebrity to do a commercial, but they apparently paid them so much money that they were willing to do it in Japan. And then, you would never see the commercials until now. Now you can see them all. Arnold Schwarzenegger did one, or did a few other big celebrities. Ardent, was Living Daylights Dalton's first Bond a reboot? I always thought they were continuance with recasting. Also, Bill Burr has a lot of that same always playing Bill Burr thing Leary has. Yeah, he's got a little more of a range because it's, like Dennis Leary's persona on stage was always big and distinct. And Bill's is too, but like you could take Bill Burr and put him in, he can be like a working guy, he could be a gangster. Dennis Leary can kind of only be Dennis Leary when he yells. When he starts talking fast and doing the Dennis Leary yelling thing, there's not a lot of subtlety in his delivery, even when he's trying to be subtle. Especially when and the moment he smokes a cigarette, it's just like he's doing Dennis Leary stand up. It's kind of like, yeah, but Bill Burr has slightly more range, I think, but they're kind of in the same wheelhouse. Living Daylights, Dalton's first Bond film, a reboot. Well, that's a good question. I think it kind of is, because each time they switched out a Bond, it was further along in the history of the world around the Bond. So, like, the original Bond, he was an OSI agent in World War II, and then was a naval officer, and then in MI6. Carl, Leary's okay. He's a Bill Hicks wannabe. Yeah. I mean, I think Bill Hicks, I think he's great, but I also think people romanticize Bill Hicks more. If he had lived, who knows? I mean, he could be, he could have been the biggest proponent of this certain medical procedure for all we know, right? I mean, if you had said to me 30 years ago Howard Stern would be the way he is now, I would have been like, what? No, Howard's cool. And now I look at him and go, oh no, what happened? Ardent gods, I miss Bill Hicks and Sam Kinison. Sam Kinison. Yeah, Sam was nuts, I think. A little bit too nutty. which is probably why he's dead. And yeah, he would have been interesting to see if he had survived and, I don't know, gotten slim and got off the drugs. But, you know, a lot of these guys, you get older and you just go, screw it, I want a paycheck. You know? I mean, you look at Harrison Ford. JC, I like the fan theory James Bond is just a code name and they replace the old agent when the new one dies or retires. Yeah, I mean, that's cool. Ardent, Chris Farley too. Oh God. Yeah, Chris Farley. Yeah. I think Chris Farley never was, I mean, I thought he was kind of funny, but he always felt like he was trying to wear the shoes of bigger guys and never quite lived up to that. You know, I didn't like a lot of his comedy movies. I thought they were lame. You know, I didn't think they were like the bad comedy movies now. I just thought like, Beverly Hills Ninja? No, I don't want to see that. You know, it's just him yelling. JC, Dennis Leary ripped off his a-hole bit from Bill Hicks. That's not good. True. I have to take your word for it. I mean, you just mean his whole persona or a specific bit. Yeah, I mean, the fan theory that Bond is the same, or it's a different guy. I mean, that, kind of holds true, but it's not what the books were, and that's when you get right down to it for Bond. I don't want to make this whole thing about Bond, and I totally could. Bond is like the books, and the books were, his training was in World War I. He came out of that and was a spy at the height of the Cold War, which is the best time to be a spy, And that's why I think it's long overdue to take Bond back to that era and leave him there. Because the role of a spy these days is much, much different. And the Western powers are not what they were back then. They keep trying to be, and it's pathetic. So I think it's more that the world has changed so much. And it's not the sexism thing. That part of it totally works, because people love seeing a guy who's like cool and smoking and drinking and, getting with hot chicks. It doesn't matter what character. That's always cool. It's the spy stuff that just doesn't work anymore, at least for me. Wish they'd reboot the Remo Williams movie. They are rebooting Remo Williams, I think. I read that somewhere. Who are they rebooting it with? I forget. Carl loves the Remo movie. Who doesn't? Who doesn't? Well, I think that's a whole series of books, right? And I believe they're bringing them back. I'm almost positive I've read that. Remo Williams reboot. Yeah. Well, they did it in 2017, apparently. Remo Williams 2, The Adventure Continues. With Jim Ford. I don't remember this movie. And this was not... Oh, here's another one. Remo Williams, The Prophecy? Wait a minute. 1988. Starring Rowdy McDowell. I'm almost sure I read that in Variety a few weeks ago. I'm not seeing anything. And let me try the news here. Gordon Smith, this is 2 weeks ago. Gordon Smith to adapt Remo Williams series, The Destroyer, for Sony. That was it. Yeah, they're going to call it The Destroyer. And so it's going to be a series. Sony. It has set Better Call Saul writer-producer Gordon Smith to to write and executive produce. That sounds like it's going to be really good. So, Ardent, what? Oh, sweet. Yeah, the Destroyer series by Murphy and Sapir. Never heard of it. What? Oh, man. Got to go find those after the stream. Yeah, I don't think it's dropped yet. They're working on it. I knew there was something. Yes, Ardent is a little excited. Yeah, that should be fun because I think with that particular property, they never. I mean, even though everybody loves Remo Williams, the movie, beyond that, there was more to it. You know, there are all these books like Bond. Like it should have been more. They should have done more with it, and they didn't. They should also do The Executioner, which you may or may not have heard of. He was the character that supposedly Marvel based the Punisher on. He's basically the Punisher without the skull. He wears a black turtleneck and he murders mafia guys. And there was a series of books at the time of the creation of the Punisher. There was a series of very popular books, and supposedly they based they said, well, let's do our own version of the Executioner, and they called him the Punisher and gave him the skull. Ardent, yeah, the books have a massive amount of backstory. They're also older, so again, my advice would be they should set those books in the time that they were written. But will they? Probably not. You know, these guys don't think things through. They should think this through. Like a writer would probably go, oh, no, we have to set it back. And I don't know, when did those come out? 70s and 80s? This is a different time. You got more, you know, you've got scenes of action. If you just do them without thinking about updating them, then people are going to watch the damn movie going, well, wouldn't somebody have videotaped all this and put it online? And wouldn't he go viral? And how does he keep himself, you know, anonymous or whatever? Carl, the Remo second movie and the old TV series are not good. I assume, since I had never heard of them. And then when I clicked on them, it was like, oh, here's a bunch of stuff. JC, the Better Call Saul guys think things through. They certainly do. Yeah, I have to, don't tell me about Better Call Saul. I still haven't caught up. I'm like way behind on that. I got about halfway through the series, and then I just jettisoned television, and I haven't been back since. But one day I'll go back and binge watch it, I guess. I don't know. As every day passes, I think, probably have to binge watch the whole damn series over just to remember what the hell happened. So, I don't want to go through every single one of these, but there's Benji from 2018. So, I'm sure they used a different dog. But it's that kind of movie, it's kind of almost pointless, you know. They might as well have made a sequel, but no one's going to be, the audience isn't going to be old enough to remember the old movies anyway. JC, I haven't watched past season 2, but it was good. I just don't watch TV anymore. Yeah, that's why I am. It's just like, I just don't have the time. I'm just constantly scrambling. Ardent, still haven't seen Breaking Bad, let alone Better Call Saul. Breaking Bad is completely worth the watch. Better Call Saul, I hear, is pretty good. But, my God, Breaking Bad. I mean, the first season, when you're watching it, you're like, where are they going with this? Because it's a little slow at first, but, man, by the end of that, it's quite a journey, I think. Child's Play. That here was a poor reboot. I don't think this was... Yeah. I don't think they needed to reboot. Chucky's kind of done. They rebooted this movie, I think, while the TV show's still going, right? I forget when the TV show started. Maybe it started the year after. I don't think the TV show's based on the movie, this movie. I think it's based on the original movie, but I didn't follow it that close. It's just like, feels like they just go, oh, let's squeeze the tube from both ends and see how much money we can make. Carl says, no, the first Remo isn't Oscar worthy, but it's good for what it is. It's fun. Yeah. JEC, Breaking Bad is great. I thought it really picked up when Saul Goodman showed up. He was my favorite character. Yeah, and then I don't want to say anything to ruin it, but I think it really picks up like it's like a snowball rolling down the hill after a while. By the yeah, Saul picks it up, but like every element picks up, and like it's the learning curve of the characters that really fascinated me. Because a lot of the first season's about them trying to figure stuff out, and they're bad at it, especially Walter. And then, man, it's just a journey. And I'm glad they ended it when it did, when they did, because, you know, after a while, I mean, it didn't overstay its welcome, but I could see them wanting to do another season, and I think that would have been too much. I think they ended it right about where you could see it. You could argue maybe they were half a season too long, but I think you're being picky then. But yeah, see that unfortunately, Breaking Bad is so great and did so well. I worry that one day they'll remake that. You know, it's just there are things that probably could be rebooted and be good, like Remo Williams. The reason Remo Williams should be rebooted, besides the fact, you know, Fred Ward is now dead, but there wasn't enough. It's like a big character with lots of books. They should have made a sequel. I mean, the movie did okay. It didn't do gangbusters, but it did okay. JEC, Breaking Bad is great at cliffhangers. The first few episodes drag a little, but the episodes end on such insane cliffhangers you have to watch the next episode. Yeah, and there's a lot going on too. It's real, and Aaron Paul is really great in it too. People forget about him. It's a shame he hasn't really got much after the show, which is a shame. I think he's a good actor, but Battlestar Galactica reboot was pretty good, says Carl. Yeah, I've heard it. I didn't watch it. I watched the original back in the 70s when I was a kid. And I even watched Battlestar Galactica. I think it was called Battlestar Galactica 1978, which is with them on Earth, which was a weird show where they were just squeezing out the last bit of money from the big series, which by that time was off the air. I actually got to do a panel with Richard Hatch, who was one of the original actors on the old show, at Dragon Con one time. We did a whole panel on making movies and stuff. JC, Aaron Paul is Jesse. Can't see anything else when you look at him in other movies. Yeah, I think he's a good actor, though. I mean, I think he could do another character, you know, similar to Jesse. And I think he probably has the range to go further, but he's kind of stuck. And they tried to parlay him into a movie career. It didn't seem to really take. And then he got that other TV show about the cult and a few other odds and ends. Now he's just in the mix, but it's a shame. I think he could have, you know, it's weird. If you don't get the right project, man, you just end up sort of stuck. I think he'll be, you know, they'll bring him back for Breaking Bad tie-ins and stuff like that. Maybe he'll get, you know, a gig in the Remo Williams thing, you know, as like a reoccurring character or something. Ardent, Next Generation was a good reboot too. That's interesting. Is that a reboot? Is that a reboot? No. Not really, right? Because it's a different show with different characters in the same universe, right? Because in the first episode, they tie it in because Data meets Bones. Like, Bones is still walking around. And DeForest Kelley, I think it was DeForest Kelley was in it, right? He was still alive. They put him in like one last episode or something. I think he was in the very first episode, the pilot. He was the big cameo, and Scotty was in it too, and the movie Scotty, like not TV show Scotty, but movie Scotty, and Deep Space Nine ties in just as well because they even go back in time to the Trouble with Tribbles episode, so that's all in the same universe. So I don't think that's a reboot. That would be like calling, say, Morbius a reboot of Spider-Man. It's not, because it's a different character, right? He's in the same universe, but he's a completely different character. They didn't swap out any of the original crew. The original crew in Next Gen. Hard to know what qualifies as a reboot. I think it has to remake some of the original characters, at least. Carl says J.J. Abrams' Star Trek is a reboot, and it's hit and miss. Yes, that's a reboot because it's Kirk, Spock, McCoy. Arnett, yeah, it was DeForest Kelley. Dad almost cried when he showed up. Wow. Yeah, that was the best moment of that first episode, and then it goes right into the toilet, that whole first season. Boy. JC, Aaron Paul is a character actor, not a star material, but Jesse was such a big character, he kind of can't play characters like that again, but he's limited in the type of roles he can pull off. Yeah. It depends. Like, I think an actor like him could, if he catches the right project and then really does the actory thing, he changes up his look in a big way and the movie's a hit. You never know. Like, he could pull a Christian Bale if he gets lucky. He could do something crazy and I don't know, fatten himself up or muscle up or have a completely different look. You wouldn't even recognize him. I mean, I remember Cameron Diaz, right? She's in Being John Malkovich, and I didn't realize she was in the damn movie. And I'm watching the movie, and halfway through the movie, I realized, oh my God, that's Cameron Diaz. I didn't even recognize her because she changes her look so much in that movie. I mean, and she's normally like super, super hot. And this is when she was still, I think this was before Charlie's Angels, or right around the same time. So she's still smoking hot at this point. And she's in that movie, and they really dress her down. She's got dark hair. I didn't even realize who I was watching. And halfway through, I'm like, who the hell is that? I'm like, oh my God, it's Cameron Diaz. So I think he could do it. I think he has the talent to do it. Will he do it? I don't know. Because one of the telltale signs, I think, is he got a movie right out of the gate of Breaking Bad. I think it was called, not Speed or something Speed, the race car movie. And he looked just like Jesse, basically. Except, the clothes weren't the same. But, he had like a buzz cut. He looked just like Jesse, which I think was a dumb move on his part. Like he should have changed up his look, grew his hair out, give him a mustache, but you don't know. Maybe the producers told him, no, we want you to look like Jesse. Or he didn't want to wear a wig or whatever. I mean, Henry Cavill wouldn't shave his mustache for his Superman appearance when he had to go back for reshoots, and because he was doing some other movie. I want to say that, I guess that was a Tom Cruise movie. Did he have the mustache? Or so how did that go? JC, I mean, Aaron Paul is kind of short, odd face, can't really pull off a leading man role. Not sure he could pull off facial hair. He's kind of stuck looking like Jesse. Yeah, to the large. I mean, but again, you never know. You never know. Will he do it? I kind of think not. I don't think he will. So here's an interesting one on the list, Cruella. That's an interesting... Oh, here's the Black Queen. Yo, welcome. Cruella, definitely a reboot, I think. Yeah, because The other one's animated, and yeah, I don't think those continuities jibe. Um, Carl says like Henry Cavill, but not as Superman. Oh, you like Henry Cavill, but not as Superman. Yeah, he never really got a good script, I don't think. So Cruella, yeah, I would say that's a reboot, right? Because I don't think it's the same character, really. Mainly because it's a cartoon character that they're making live, but um, JC, I think he was contractually obligated not to shave it off. He was the villain in Mission Impossible, probably, and that was probably the more important of the two movies. Um, and then you got Death Race 2008. I'm kind of skipping around, skipping movies I don't even know. Um, did anybody see the Death Race 2000 movie, the original one? That is definitely a remake. Sylvester Stallone's in the original one, as is what's his face? The guy from Kung Fu, the original Kung Fu TV show. I can't think of his name. Oh God. But yeah, that's a hilarious bad movie. If you ever need one, Death Race 2000. It's gloriously horrible. JC, love the original Death Race. Yeah, I know, it's just great. Sylvester Stallone is so hilarious in it. I think he sued to have his name taken off the movie. He hates it so much. David Carrington. Yeah. Can never. Yeah. Oh God. So that's definitely. I guess Statham plays the lead. I forget the lead character in Death Race. Sylvester Stallone. I guess David Carrington is the lead in that. Ardent. Speaking of Stallone, Judge Dredd and Dredd. Yeah, that is definitely a remake too, I think. Although they don't really say, but yeah, because it's kind of like the events of the Stallone movie don't even really matter. They just don't even mention it. So it could be the same character, but they're almost night and day, their interpretations of Dredd. So I would say, yeah, it's a different movie. Definitely a reboot. A good reboot. I really like the Carl Urban one. God, the Stallone one is awful. Ardent. Frankenstein. Yeah, David Carradine plays Frankenstein. Yeah, he's not the main character though, right? I don't think so. It's another driver that's the main character. He's kind of like, you kind of think he's the villain, but then later he's kind of the hero. When he takes off, I won't give it away, but when he takes off the glove towards the end of the movie, oh my God, it's so hilarious. Dracula. Oh boy, there's a movie they made a million times, and that's always usually a reboot. Frankenstein's the hero, you think? He's not. He's kind of not the. He's a hero, but is he the main character of that movie? I guess he is. Isn't there somebody else though? I guess he is. God, it's been a long time since I saw that movie. I thought there's another character or a woman, isn't it? I guess maybe I'm thinking of the female lead, the one he gives his speech to at the end when he takes off his glove. So here they got Dracula 1958 and Dracula 2000, but there's been like a million Dracula movies. David Carradine, that's it. David Carradine Kung Fu series has been done as a reboot called The Warrior, says Carl. Yes. JC, yeah, he's the main character? Oh, I guess so. Machine Gun Joe is the villain. Right, that's Stallone. Dungeons and Dragons, Honor Amongst Thieves, that's coming out. Ardent, Ian McShane kind of plays second lead in the new Death Race. Yeah, I guess that's before he blew up again. He'll always be Lovejoy to me. That was a good show. I enjoyed that. Dungeons and Dragons is, I don't know, it's kind of just like an IP at this point. Kind of like generic fantasy IP. They just keep trotting out. JC, Frankenstein has a female navigator that helps him drive. Right, and he's the one I guess he gives the speech to at the end, and then she survives, right? Fantastic Four. There's your reboots there. They've done that movie like 3 times, and now they're doing it again. It's a movie that I talked about this the other day. Kirby was an effing genius. I love the old Kirby Fantastic Fours. The comic guys after Kirby really couldn't capture what Kirby did on the Fantastic Four. They would get close, but not really good. You know, they wouldn't really nail it. That's really the peak Kirby. Is Fantastic Four. Really good. And yeah, I just don't think it. If anything should be a Disney Plus TV show, it should have been the Fantastic Four. Now they could have built to a movie, but now I guess they're doing another movie. It's like the 4th or 5th one, if you count that one they didn't even release. Arden says, I can't wait to see how much the new Doctor Doom sucks. I guess. I don't even know what they're going to do with him. It's just, I mean, it's really a property that's just worn out its welcome. I think what they're doing with the current incarnation might have helped it a little if Disney wasn't so wallowing in wokeness constantly, because I'm sure it's going to be woke as F. But, you know, because I think the new one starts with them like time traveling. So I think they are going to. JC, John Byrne did a good Fantastic Four, but that was at his peak. Yeah, it was pretty good. It still wasn't as good as Kirby's, I think, but I thought it was decent. But the new movie, I think they're going to do a time travel thing, like the Fantastic Four are set where they're supposed to be during the space race, and then they go off into some dimension and don't come back until the modern day. So I think that's going to be the premise of the movie, or at least part of the premise, and that's how they're going to explain it. And I'm not sure how they're going to explain Doctor Doom, but Doctor Doom was another character that only Kirby seemed to be able to do right. There was a story in CBR back in the day, Comic Book Buyer's Guide, or CBG, I guess. And the story goes that at a convention, somebody asked Kirby to draw Doctor Doom without his mask, and people expected him to draw, you know, this melted face with all these scars, and Kirby drew Doom without the mask, and he put one tiny scar on the cheek. And that was the genius of Kirby, because, you know, he's the man in the Iron Mask, right? And Doom is so vain. He puts himself in the Iron Mask basically because of a tiny little mark on his face. That's to me, that was just genius. When I saw that, I was like, oh, blew my mind. Blew my little comic book fanboy mind. Carl, there's old Doctor movies with Peter Cushing. Would you class them as reboots? They're cheap and very dated, LOL. Oh, the Doctor Who movies with Peter Cushing. I didn't even know they existed. Really? With Peter Cushing? I guess they are, because are they considered... I don't think they're considered canon in the series. I think they're considered a part of the continuity. So, yeah, they would be reboots. Because he's not in the lineup of Doctors. There's a video of YouTube of Kirby drawing Doom without his mask. Oh, okay. So they have a video of it. Cool. Yeah, everybody expects, like, him to have an eyeball hanging and all these scars. And, so I guess they got video of it before he died. Good for him. yeah, so Fantastic Four, yeah, I don't know. I don't think they'll be able to do it. Mainly because Disney seems to be incapable of making anything. They rebooted Firestarter. That feels like a remake to me, though, right? Um, JC, yeah, Hammer made a Doctor Who movie. They weren't very good. Um, Firestarter and Friday the 13th. They're just, I think they're more remakes than anything else, right? Because they start over. They start over with the first Carrie, yeah. Bleach Demon is here. The Fantastic Four will turn into fan fiction for. Oh, fan fiction for. Ah, now I get it. Um, yeah. Well, everything at Disney's just turned. Now I'm going to rant about Disney. Everything at Disney has turned into fan fiction, right? It's just. It's what is fan fiction, and I warned about this. I'm very much against fan fiction for the most part. I think it's fine if you're Bleach Demon, the Fantastic Four return. Oh no, Ardent, Hail Bleach. Fan fiction should be constrained to people just testing, trying things out. That's fine, but this idea that, oh, let's trade fan fiction, let's put it on the internet, let's publish fan fiction. No, you shouldn't be publishing it. It's not publishable stuff, in my view. It may be good. Sometimes you have somebody with real skill in that area writing halfway decent stuff, and it's for fun, whatever. But you've got people who think, they do it too long, and then they think, oh, no, I'm going to publish this. Like, I got to publish this. You can't. It's fine. I did it when I was a kid. I tried to write a screenplay. I didn't understand how screenplays work. I basically described the movie. But it's not something that should be super, super public. It should be understood to be practice or fun. If you want to waste your time, you and your friends want to write an original Star Trek screenplay with the original characters, which is never going to get produced. Sure, fine, okay. I think it's a huge waste of time. I mean, some of these guys make fan films even. I had a friend make one, and it was a good movie. He made a Punisher movie, but I said, you should develop your own IP. Don't remake this. Yeah, everybody will be interested because it's the character they're interested in, not you. And you can, every once in a while, a guy makes a fan fiction movie thing, does well and maybe gets a deal or whatever, but I think you could just as well get that deal if you do an original character. If it looks good enough, people will watch it and like it. Ardent, maybe I should write Asriel fanfic for practice. You can if you want, but I wouldn't publish it. I wouldn't put it out on the internet. It's good practice. It's fun. Like, if you're going to write for stuff, like I did spec scripts, and they want you to write that, right? So at the time, I was trying to break in TV, and they said, well, write a spec script for a current show. So I wrote a spec script for Married with Children. It was fun. I did one for The Simpsons, too. I think I did one other. I did Moonlighting. That was the first one I wrote. By that time, I understood how scripts worked. So I did Moonlighting, Married with Children. I know, that dates me. Married with Children, and The Simpsons. And I used, those were samples. And they weren't going to get made, but people can read them and say, okay, he understands the format, he understands how the show works, the page count is correct, all that good stuff, all the basics. They want to understand that you understand how to make the damn thing. Then they're going to give you, if they give you any work, they'll give you the worst show imaginable to write a screenplay for, because you're nobody. If you're lucky, you'll get to write it. And back in the day, they did accept Star Trek Next Generation scripts from outside. You could, I think, that's the other one I wrote. I wrote a Next Gen script. Man, that was a long time ago. And I sent that in, but you know, chances are low you could get it, or that it would even be read. It would have to hit them, you know, perfectly, because they got thousands of them. They usually just throw them in the trash. Carl, there was that Star Trek fan film that got into trouble. Yeah, there's always that. I mean, if you make any money, you're in trouble. You're in trouble. They can come after you. If you make no money, my understanding is you're fine. But then, you know, these things aren't cheap to make. But you know, you can make them for practice, but they don't, you know, they don't want these scripts. I'll tell you a story, and it'll be disheartening for those of you who want to write for TV or whatever, but it's true. You have to understand this. If you want to write for comics, here's a real bad one. I had a friend who I knew was a big-time editor at one of the major publishers. I won't say where, but if you go through my videos, I'm sure you can figure it out, because I think I've mentioned him before. But he said, you know, I asked him, I think, do you guys still accept, you know, pitches or whatever? And he just sort of sat back in his chair and went, yeah, we have to. And let me tell you what normally happens. He said, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these, and I have assistants go through, maybe pick out the best ones, and they pile up on this table in my office. And he said, when the pile gets too high, I bring in a trash can, push the entire pile into the trash can, and then try to forget I just did that. And he felt bad about it, but there was no way he could go through all of them. There was just no way. He didn't have the time. He definitely didn't have the desire. It's just not practical, unfortunately. Now, that all being said, I think they should still keep the door open a crack for certain people to try to get in. But there should be such a high bar that only a handful of people get in, so they could actually look at the damn things, right? So maybe once a year they have a contest, and then the winners of the contest, they get evaluated or something like that. And that was at DC. At TV shows, I think I told this story before, but real quick, moonlighting, I called an agent because the moonlighting guy said, if you get an agent, we'll look at your script. And the guy basically said, and this was when moonlighting was big, he said, I am one of 3,000 agents in LA, just LA. I have 1,000 spec scripts for moonlighting in my office right now. Or no, not 1,000, 300, he said. So he had 300 in his office. He said every agent in LA has 300 moonlighting scripts in their office right now. So he said, do the math. And he was right, 300,000. They don't even read the scripts they make. You think they're going to read the other 300,000 they're never going to make? No. Carl, I had an idea for a Star Wars reimagining, which I think could work, but don't intend to do anything about it, LOL. Well, look, if you have a good idea, my advice to people is don't do Star Wars, do something else. Make up your own guys. You can still make similar guys, and I don't mean to say you should rip off Star Wars or anything, but look, Star Wars isn't exactly the most original idea ever. It's pretty derivative of a lot of different things. So if you just want to make a science fiction thing and it's good, people will like it. And if it's similar to Star Wars, you just got to make sure it's not that similar, especially to Star Wars regarding Disney. Yeah, there are ways around it. You know, the stuff that makes things different and really cool tends to be the stuff that is missing from the corporate world anyway, right? That it's missing. I mean, Star Wars to me is just soulless. Everything they do now is just utterly soulless and without heart or character at all. And that's what they're missing. So if you put some of that in an original work, people take notice if they ever see it. The hard thing is getting the thing made or seen. It's really tough. People just don't read screenplays. I know it's terrible, but it's true. So for stuff like this, for reboots or remakes, they hire guys with a track record. At least if you have a credit, they go, well, he's done something before. Um, Garfield is another movie they keep making again and again and again. Is that a reboot? I don't know if it's really a reboot. I guess it kind of is because they did change the animation style. Garfield's kind of like a weird property because it's static, right? It's always Garfield. And maybe they got a different... They're not going to really have a new take on Garfield, right? It's always going to be the same. So, I don't know if I'd consider that a reboot or just... Because they're not going to do the same story. There's no need to, really. It's always kind of the same story anyway. Carl, I wouldn't even attempt it as I'm not a writer. It would turn out as bad as a result. Well, it is fun to do. That's why I got a lot of my fanfic out of my system playing Dungeons and Dragons and being a dungeon master. Because me and my friends would play all the games. We played Dungeons and Dragons, Gamma World, Boot Hill, everything. So I was always writing scenarios for that. And that's a great way to get that kind of stuff out of your system. Or, really explore things. I always recommend improv, too. Improv's a great way to do it. But role-playing's a little bit like improv. With a lot of rules and dice, you might say. So, yeah, I mean, in terms of writing screenplays, it's all about format anyway. Ardent, Axanar. That was a good fanfic. I have no idea what you're talking about. Ghostbusters 2016. There's a reboot. That is a reboot. They announced it as a reboot, so that is definitely a reboot, right? And we don't have to go over that mess, but that was a dumb idea for a reboot, right? I mean, that was a horrific idea. And they could have easily have just done a sequel, right? They could have made all those female characters, the daughters of the previous characters, or whatever, relate however they wanted to relate the old characters to them, and then, had the old guys still hanging around, or instead they did what they did. Carl, and Axar, yeah, that's the one that got in trouble. Oh, that's the Star Trek reboot. I didn't know what it was called. Okay. I mean, I've seen some good fan movie stuff and even some good Star Trek ones. I think there was one that used one of the original cast members. I forget which one. I want to say Chekhov. I think they paid him a boatload of money. Was that Axanar? I don't know. But it's just like, you're going to invest that kind of money and do Star Trek? You're out of your mind. Now, maybe, like, if you're a millionaire and you're just doing it for fun, just so you can impress your nerd friends, sure, more power to you. But if you're serious about it, like, I want these people to, take on my IP and then incorporate it in the Star Trek, it's probably never going to happen. Ardent, some of the lightsaber choreography competition pieces are also great fanfic on their own. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's not for me. I say if you're going to, again, go through that trouble. Now, like, maybe in that case, the choreography, I mean, they could always use that. I mean, they're cranking out Star Wars stuff from Disney. If you're looking to get a gig, it was true in comics. If you're looking to get a gig, being in or around the fandom sometimes is a way, but, at the end of the day, it's kind of a thankless business anyway. And if you really want respect from people in the creative realm, you have to be known for something. You have to do something on your own. Even the guy from, what's his face? The Room. He commands a certain amount of respect because at least he did his own movie. I mean, yeah, it was terrible. It was so terrible they made movies about how terrible it was. But you got to give the guy credit. He made a movie. He starred in it. So, if you're just going to be a work for hire, then, don't bother with all this fanfic stuff. work, get the lowest paid job at the studio and work your way up. That's how everybody does it. You know, if you're a secretary somewhere, they'll throw you a bone because everybody wants to be in a movie industry. Tommy Wiseau. Yeah, that's him. What a story, Mark. All right, let's move this. Let's move this along. We're already an hour in. All right, so we talked about the Godzilla movies. Yeah, they're kind of like James Bond. Halloween movies. They're, I guess, yeah, they're reboots. They're weird reboots, right? Because they start in the middle of the continuity and continue it and like ignore certain movies. It's one of the reasons I was like, no, thank you, no, thank you. You've already effed this series up. Like, I mean, they should have just, quite frankly, I think they should just abandon Halloween. But it's such a popular IP. I guess they'll just keep making it forever. Every 20 years, oh, the new Halloween's out. You know, I was at a horror convention and I was just noting all the merchandise, and it was all Freddy, Michael Myers, Jason Voorhees, and I just thought, you know, and God bless the fans, whatever, but at some point, fanboys, you got to abandon the corporate stuff. Like, are you gonna dress up as Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers forever? There's like a million other horror things. There was a guy at the show. He had his own character, and he goes as cosplays as I think his name's Father Death or something. He's like a creepy priest, like creepy as an evil. No, Father Evil. I think that's his name. Yeah, Father Evil. He's got these contacts, these whacked out contacts, and he's got a whole shtick he does. This is pretty cool. Carl, obviously Planet of the Apes has been rebooted, but not a fan of that. Yeah, me neither. I really hated the first reboot. God, what an abortion of a movie that was with Mark Wahlberg. Whew. You know, and why pick Tim Burton? I don't know what. It's like they decided, Tim Burton, we'll give him movies that he should never direct. Okay, let's give him Batman. I mean, why don't you just give him James Bond while you're at it? It doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, James and the Giant Peach, yes, Tim Burton. Edward Scissorhands, yes. Addams Family, Wednesday, as much as I'm not, you know, totally going nuts for that show, he absolutely should be directing the Addams Family related projects. The Planet of the Apes? The Planet of the Apes? No. It's not in his wheelhouse. I to this day, you just gotta wonder what the hell the meeting was like. Oh, we got Tim Burton here. He wants to direct something. Okay, what can we give him? How about this gothic thing with creepy characters? How about the Headless Horseman and Jack the Ripper and stuff like that? Nah, let's give him Planet of the Apes, a sci-fi thing. I don't even know why you would redo Planet of the Apes, the first one. First one's a great film. There's nothing wrong with it. Still holds up, in my view. The rest, I think they're useless. But Bleach Demon, Tim Burton is too niche for anything but bonkers weird. Yeah. Yeah. And that's just like, maybe Harry Potter. Like, I could see Tim Burton directing Harry Potter. I think he'd be good at it, right? You can make Harry Potter, you know, really creepy. It would work for the characters. Now, Harry Potter's not supposed to be that creepy, but I think it would work. Arden, Punisher is a bunch of reboots. Yeah, that's reboot. That is reboot. Is that even on the list here? Yep. Punisher Warzone. Carl, the only thing good about it was the prosthetics. Yeah. In Planet of the Apes, he means, I think. Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit. Oh, and the Hulk, that's been rebooted, obviously. Now that reboot is, this movie didn't do so well, but it's still a good IP, so. Now, here's a real complicated question. Is Avengers a reboot of the Hulk character. On the one hand, he kind of is, but then the MCU later establishes that what's the name? Tim Roth is still the Abomination. So, I don't know. I think at this point, probably discussing the MCU is pointless. I don't think they really give a crap about continuity at this point. They've turned into. It's amazing how the movie studios have turned into Marvel and DC in terms of their organization. It's the exact same thing, right? You would have comic after comic about various characters, and then the continuity was great for a while, and then somehow it went off the rails, and that's where all their problems started in comics. And they kind of never fixed it, still won't fix it, still won't put the editors to work keeping the continuity. It's just kind of like they do in my view, the laziest possible thing to keep their to explain their inconsistencies with their continuity. They just don't even want to be bothered with it. And that is half the reason people read the books back in the day. Back in the 80s when the continuity was still good, oh man, it was great. It was great to read. You know, you'd see a panel with Captain America, you'd get out of the Quinjet, and it would be like, this story happened between Captain America 417 and 418. And, you know, the movies, the MCU is just turning into late stage Marvel. It's amazing. Bleach Demon, don't forget the 1979 Reb Brown Captain America, the Chris Evans one, is a reboot. Oh, right. Yeah, that is true. And we got for the Hulk, Bill Bixby. I forgot about that. And there was a Thor in the Hulk movie as well. He looked pretty good for Thor, actually. And then there was, I don't think it ever got released, but I remember seeing stills from like a 1970s Avenger movie, which I don't know if it ever happened, where they were gearing up for it and it didn't happen or something. I don't remember. It's been so long, but I do remember this still. So yeah, they tried. It didn't work mainly because the effects couldn't make it work. And that's basically the only reason. It looked awkward and weird. But, you know, a lot of stuff in that era did, especially on television, because they just didn't have the budget. You know? You look at a movie like Hooper, which has amazing stunts and whatnot. That movie looks great. You know? It's about from that era. I think that's a little later, but you know, you couldn't do those kinds of stunts in a TV show back in the day. These days they do. They spend way too much money on TV shows. Way too much. Let's see. Anything else of note here? The Mummy. Oh, talk about your remakes there, or reboots. That's definitely a reboot. Mad Max Fury Road. That is a classic reboot, I think, because I don't think it's... Well, it doesn't really start over, but it kind of does. It kind of stays on that line, like, well, this could be a sequel, but it could be a reboot. This could take place after Thunderdome, but it might not. The Lone Ranger, I think that's a reboot. Nightmare on Elm Street, that was a reboot. I think got Pokemon listed. I mean, is that really a reboot? Weren't they all animated? I didn't see them, so I don't know. The Puppet Master movies, they remade the Puppet Master movies? I thought they were all sequels. They made so many of them. RoboCop, that was a reboot. Yeah, see, that was a start. That one that was like start over with new technology, new actor, everything. Resident Evil, bunch of horrible reboots there. I never thought the original Resident Evil was all that good. Renfield, that's a reboot. That looks good. The Nicolas Cage thing, that looks really good. I forgot there was a 1990s David Hasselhoff as Nick Fury in 1998. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I thought, I mean, he looked closer to Nick Fury than Samuel L. Jackson did. But, you know, as an actor, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson's way better actor. But it was funny. When they first started talking about the Marvel movies, I immediately thought of that and thought, oh, is David Hasselhoff going to come back? Because he was the right age. I think at the time when they announced it, that would have been like, I guess it would have been like mid-2000s they were talking about it. He would have been the right age. Now, I mean, he'd be a little too old, but so is Samuel L. Jackson. But he's holding up pretty good. They're doing that Secret Invasion. Ardent, Total Recall, totally unnecessary remake. Talk about an unnecessary remake. I love the first one, but a remake of Total Recall didn't seem prudent. Carl, was there? LOL. Yeah. Yeah. Now they list Star Trek film. Oh, right. The J.J. Abrams Star Trek. But not the regular Star Trek. Not with the original cast. They weren't remakes. They were continuing the story. Snake Eyes. I guess that was a reboot. I don't know. Some of these are just so unimportant in my view. It's like, why even include them on a list anywhere? And that's about it for this list. What else did I have here? Oh, that was not the list. Oh, this is the Rotten Tomatoes list. I'm just going to go through the top 10 because Rotten Tomatoes always is so off the charts, like, what the hell? So these would be, I guess, the top 10 reboots. Wait a minute. I got to go to the next page. These are all TV shows, though. Oh, come on. Forget it. Okay, here we go. Alright, so top 10 TV reboots. Heroes Reborn Season 1. What was that a reboot of? I don't think that was a reboot of anything. Fuller House Season 1. Okay, that was a reboot. But wasn't it also a sequel? Oh, I guess these are the worst ones. These are the lowest rated scores. Uncle Buck Season 1. Oh, yeah, that was a reboot. Very unnecessary. Heathers Season 1. Didn't see it. Maybe you could have made that work. I don't know. Arrested Development Season 4 Remix. Fateful Consequences. That is definitely not a remake. Remix, maybe. I mean, that was the original cast. It was just, unfortunately, terrible. I think that was wasn't that the season where all the time was just off and, I don't know, they were jumping around. It was weird. The Odd Couple. Yeah, this is something that's pretty classic, but this was like the third or fourth time they remade it. That's a shame. It had Matthew Perry and Thomas Lennon. Yeah. Can't beat the classic, but that's not a bad. Who the hell was the sloppy one? Thomas Lennon definitely would have to be Felix. So I guess Matthew Perry. He doesn't strike me as the Oscar type. Bleach Demon. I'll just say MST3K reboot season was dreadfully bad. It had none of the Midwest character with bland hipster cast. Yeah, that looks like it went woke. I know Patton Oswalt was involved with that towards the very late days of MST. Ardent, compared to the original Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman series, the new Beauty and the Beast was trash. Here's a reboot of MacGyver. I didn't even know they did that. Oh, here it is. Beauty and the Beast. Remake. Charlie's Angel remake got 0%. Wow. I don't know what that is. And the worst one was the Magic School Bus Rise Again. How do you screw up that? How do you screw up the Magic School Bus? That's bizarre. You got a weird list. Rotten Tomatoes always has weird lists. So I guess the top ones were at the bottom of the list here. So Cobra Kai. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Again, it's not really a remake or revivals. Okay, so they got reboots and revivals. Yeah, here's Mystery Science Theater. According to this, it's like the best. It's like the best. Samurai Jack. It's kind of a revival. Yeah. Voltron. Psych the movie. None of these are. I was very confused by that list. All right, going over to the IMDb, movies and TV shows that have been remade or rebooted, and then we got, let's go to best remakes and reboots of all time. All time. This is the IMDb, and number one, baby, The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. I love this movie. I would put that at the top. Bleach Demon, talking about the previous list. Well, they're damn wrong. Yeah, but this one, IMDb, I think they're on the money with The Thing. That is a fantastic movie. I cannot get enough of that movie. So good. There was rumblings about making a sequel to this. Man, that would be great. Like a real sequel with Kurt Russell and what's his face? Keith. Keith is his last name. Number 2, Scarface. Yeah, it is a remake. It's also kind of a reboot too, because it's not a remake in that they're doing the same thing. They are doing a completely different take. They're moving the character to Miami. It's good. I do enjoy Scarface. Carl, haven't seen Cobra Kai. I can't stand the Daniel character. Yeah, The Thing. It's really good. I watched the first couple of episodes and I really enjoyed it. The Departed? That was a remake, huh? I didn't realize they had made this before. This must be a very old gangster movie. Wonder why he would bother to remake it, though. The Fly, that was a remake, for those of you, and it's a pretty old movie now. It's from '86. It's good, I guess. It's not the greatest movie in the world, but it's okay. It's all right. Casino Royale, technically a remake, because they did make Casino Royale before. They made the comedy version of it. And it's good. It's the best Daniel Craig movie by far. Oh, by far. For the Bond movies, fight me on that. The rest of his run is not good, in my view. Goldblum Fly was good. It's good. It's all right. I wouldn't put it at the top. I would put it on this list, but not there. Batman Begins. Guess that's a remake, is it? I don't think it's a... Well, I guess so, with the Joker. I guess that would be a reboot. Carl agrees. The Fly was good. Dread, of course, we talked about. Excellent. I would put that a little higher. Mad Max Fury Road. More of a reboot. It's good. I'd put it on the list, I guess. I don't know if I'd put it in the top 10. Batman from 1989? I mean, if you made this list in 1990, sure, it would be on there. I don't know about now. I never really enjoyed it all that much. It was okay. Had a lot of problems with it. Rise of the Planet of the Apes. I mean, better than the original, but that's not saying much. That was a low bar. This one, love this movie, should be way higher on the list. Invasion of the Body Snatchers with Donald Sutherland. Bleach Demon. The 1930s Batman was the best Batman until Nolan. I mean, it's just... The Tim Burton one is just... It's not really Batman. It's like... Yeah, I don't hate it, but I watched it and I kind of just was disappointed. 30s Batman on Tubi, says Arden. Ooh, I might have to check that out. But The Invasion of the Body Snatchers all day long with Donald Sutherland. Such a great film. Definitely a step up from the previous one, which was made at a time when I don't really think they could make the movie that good. But And then I think they've already remade this one. It's a classic. An absolute classic. What an ending. Best ending ever for a science fiction movie. Let's see. Let me go back to the big list. This is movies and TV shows that have been remade or rebooted. Let's just check this. Carl agrees on the Body Snatchers. Halloween, we talked about. Halloween 2, which is, yeah, that's the new Halloween 2. The Ring, I guess. I don't know. I couldn't get into the Ring movies. And The Ring 2 is right after. The Exorcist, they remade The Exorcist as a TV show, apparently. No thank you. The original is an amazing movie. It's frightening, the original. I don't know why they keep trying to redo it. Dark Shadows, 1991. I don't remember this one at all. Didn't they remake Night of the Comet and Day of the Triffids? All I could think of was why. Yeah. Hollywood Ate My Baby is here. Abel Ferrara also made a version of Body Snatchers in the 90s. That's the one I'm probably thinking of. Ardent, the Species series was rebooted. Oh yeah, I think I do remember that. Number 7 is Dark Shadows with Johnny Depp, which never should have been made. What an awful movie that is. What an absolute waste of talent. Everybody, again, Tim Burton. But that was a thing that was in his wheelhouse, but for some reason, he made it a comedy. I don't know why. I don't know what they were thinking, making this into a comedy. But, my God, what an absolute train wreck this movie was. Friday the 13th reboot, the Hitcher reboot. I don't even remember that one. Charmed reboot. I vaguely remember this. Totally pointless. It came on the heels of the old one by not that many years, if I'm remembering correctly. Bleach Demon, the only way to top the original Exorcist is to read the first-hand accounts it's based on. Pretty much. I mean, that movie that's pretty much a perfect movie. I mean, wow. If you haven't seen the original Exorcist, boy, you are in for a scary treat if you watch it. House of Wax with Paris Hilton. Also, at the time, I think one of the worst movies ever made. House on Haunted Hill, don't remember that. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, now that's a reboot, definitely, because it really takes the character in a new direction. I didn't mind it, I just hated the fandom of it and around it, kind of. It was a little too much. Carl, the Hitcher reboot isn't good. God, especially when Buffy did the musical episodes. I got stuck at a con with somebody playing the songs. That was brutal. That was the one thing, by the way, I forgot to tell this part. At Wildwood Con, across from me, on the other side of the room, was repurposed, I swear to God, repurposed Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. And they were from a company called East Coast Gaming or something. It was to promote their games. I guess they were doing a whole Five Nights at Freddy's tie-in or whatever, but the characters acted more like the Chuck E. Cheese characters, singing and pretending to play instruments for little kids. I still don't understand why they had the setup. It did attract attention, but I had to listen to the music all day, and it was awful. And their various horrible jokes. Ardent, Prince of Darkness needs a reboot, in my opinion. Ardent, Girl with the Dragon Tattoo was an absolute terrible remake and unnecessary. I don't know if it was absolutely terrible. I think I enjoyed it when I saw it, but I hadn't seen the original. Then when I saw the original, I was like, oh, this is much better. I thought it was okay. I didn't think it didn't blow my doors off. When I saw the original, I was like, oh, this is really good. The original was on Netflix a while back. Let Me In. That's a remake of Let the Right One In. I didn't see it, but I did see the original. The original is good. Black Christmas. Not sure why they remade that. Twice. The Haunting. Not sure about that one. Psycho. Yeah, this was a totally unnecessary remake. Gus Van Sant really ought to be ashamed of himself for doing this, agreeing to this. Should have just walked away. I mean, essentially, wasn't it a shot-for-shot remake? And look who's in it. Vince Vaughn, Anne Heche, Julianne Moore, and Viggo Mortensen. What a crazy lineup. What an absolute crazy lineup. What a movie. The studio execs who greenlit this really ought to be drummed out of the business. The Grudge again. The Grudge in 2004 was a remake, and then they remade the remake in 2020. Nightmare on Elm Street, also unnecessary. My Bloody Valentine, also I don't know why they remade that movie. Carrie, don't know why they remade that. Carrie again. So they remade it in 2002 and 2013. Amityville Horror, there's like 19 million movies of the Amityville. This is like, I hope at the end of its life cycle, they never make another one of these. There's some crazy low-budget movie online that connects the Amityville house to the Titanic, and it's nuts. I forget what it's called. I want to say Titanic 666 or something like that. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, another movie they just don't want to let go, I guess. They've remade that. They rebooted it not too long ago, I think. Night Watch. Don't remember that. Piranha 3D. There's a movie you should have never remade. Romeo and Juliet. That's kind of in a class by itself when you're talking about Shakespeare, right? Like, Shakespeare's almost a separate thing because, it's a play and it's a classic and people want to see it again and again anyway. So, Poltergeist they remade in 2015. I do not remember that. What? Another one? Why would you do that? From Dusk Till Dawn, the series. Not sure why. I guess you could try it, but The Village of the Damned in 1995. I didn't see it, but I could see them remaking it since the original one's very old. Maybe. Prom Night. How long before Jaws gets remade? I wonder, did it get remade already? There's been a lot of sequels. Prom Night, Pulse, The Thing, of course. The Thing again in 2011? I don't remember that one. Why the hell would you remake that movie? God. Talk about asking to have your head kicked in by the fans. The Fly, The Eye, The Last House on the Left, Funny Games. Don't remember that. There's The Mummy. Mummy again. Ferris Bueller. Apparently they did a TV series after the movie came out. I don't remember that either. Can't do that movie without Matthew Broderick. You just can't. Or the TV show. Here's the Total Recall remake. Pet Sematary remake. Yeah, kind of pointless. I don't know why. And then here's Little Women. Tales of Little Women. Little Women. My God. Little Women. Oh, there's nothing for women on TV and the movies. They make things for women. Little Women. Could I have a whole studio dedicated to Little Women? Look how many are on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, ladies. Just in case you're counting. Carl, into a good reboot, if done right, could be UFO, a 70s sci-fi series. I remember that show. Yeah, that wouldn't be bad. It would probably end up becoming another X-Files, but didn't they redo Little Shop of Horrors in the 80s? Yes, that was the one with Rick Moranis, I think, and Steve Martin. It wasn't bad. The songs were kind of catchy. Here's Charlie's Angels. Which one reboot was this? Oh, this is the Cameron Diaz one, which is watchable. The first one's kind of watchable, only because Cameron's so hot. Drew Barrymore is fun, and Lucy Liu is pretty hot too. Bill Murray's in it. The second one I hear is unwatchable. I didn't watch that one. Ardent, Charlie's Angels, Bill Murray, Bess Bosley, would agree. The recent reboot, directed by Elizabeth Banks, absolute eye cancer in my view. Oof. Man, that trailer is horrible. The clips were horrible. Not sure. I mean, the feminist Charlie's Angels, you out of your mind? This is what worries me with Cocaine Bear coming out. That she's gonna mess that up. Oh, I hope not. Bleach Demon, no Kate Jackson, no Bleach. No Kate Jackson, no Bleach. Not sure what you mean. But no Kate Jackson. No Charlie's Angels, really. Dawn of the Dead. That was a pretty good remake. That was decent. I didn't like the Running Zombies, but it was decent. Sorority Row. I don't remember the original. Evil Dead. That I could see why they kind of wanted to remake it because the first one never really comes together. But yeah, I don't know. It just I guess to give Sam Raimi some more money. I don't know. Night of the Living Dead. That was a pointless remake, and they changed it. Ardent, Cocaine Bear versus Meth Gator. Someday, perhaps. Stephen King's The Shining. This is the one that was... I think Stephen King had more of a say in it, and they were able to do the hedge animals coming to life, which wasn't in the Stanley Kubrick one. And they were able to do a couple of things. Like, while I didn't say it, it's probably not the more superior of the two, but I kind of got to respect Stephen King for wanting to redo it, despite the fact The Shining's like this classic movie with Jack Nicholson, directed by, it's so classic, and yet Stephen King was like, nope, it's not right. He's the creator. I got to give him credit. Hollywood Ate My Baby. The Wicker Man has been mentioned yet. Crazy remake. Oh, I think we're getting up to that. Here's It. I was not... another movie. Like, Tim Curry was so great in the first one. I don't know why you remade this thing. Other than money. 10 Things I Hate About You was a remake? I didn't know that. Child's Play. Pointless. Teen Wolf. Dumb. Remake. I wish they just... I mean, to me it was pointless because they changed it so much. Like... The original Teen Wolf movie is like this funny movie with Michael J. Fox, and then you remake it into this Buffy the Vampire Slayer drama thing. Like, just why did you even license the rights for the names? Who cares? Doesn't make any sense. Van Helsing, says Ardent. Oh yeah, that was awful. The Wicker Man remake, just no. LOL, says Carl. Ardent, my eyes. Mirrors, don't know what that is. Overboard. Apparently they remade over. Now this would be a interesting reboot, because what they did was the original Overboard was Kurt Russell and Goldie Hawn. And Goldie Hawn is a rich heiress who hits her head, and then Kurt Russell convinces her, because she doesn't remember who she is, that she's his wife, his working class wife, because he needs someone to watch his kids, and then they live as a family on his ship trying to make it, and then later she regains her memory, but of course she's in love with him. Well, they swapped out the sexes on the remake, which kind of an interesting concept. I didn't see it. Anna Faris was the woman. So the man was the spoiled guy who hits his head, and then Anna Faris is the one who they would never make the Kurt Russell one again. Carl says LOL. Arden says Candyman got a remake. Yes. Not a movie I would have remade, even though I think the first one's not all that great, although Tony Todd I think is cool. But yeah, I just don't really see the point of remaking Candyman. But I mean, I guess you could. Candyman was always very, I don't know, the rules in Candyman just seem very vague. If they came out with some more... If I had to remake Candyman, I would make it so there was a specific way to get rid of him. You dig into his origin a little bit, why he keeps coming back and killing people, and why he's called Candyman, and then you figure out what really causes him. What can you do to fight back? In other words, they don't really. I never really understood that in the Candyman. Bleach Demon Shaft was remade. Come to think of it, that's right, with Samuel L. Jackson. Ardent Shaft got a sequel to the remake. Yep. Fantasy Island. I'm not sure why you would make this a movie and a horror mystery movie. This was a stupid show, which was kind of fun. It was just a slightly edgier version of The Love Boat, really. Bleach Demon, yikes. Carl, haven't seen the Shaft remake. MASH, the TV show. Yeah, that's a reboot, right? Because you take the characters from the movie and you made a series out of it. I used to watch MASH all the time. I'm old enough to remember where it was like, man, that was all over TV. I used to watch that all the time. I could quote MASH all day long. And really, within the show, it completely changed. It went from like a screwball comedy to a very serious show after a while. Hollywood Ain't My Baby. I think the new Candyman might have been woke. Yes, it was, I believe. True Lies. That was a remake? Okay. Didn't know that was a remake. Rosemary's Baby, 2014. Yeah, that was a classic 70s horror movie. This was like the second, kind of like the second biggest horror movie right around the time of The Exorcist. I forget if it came out first or second, but like this was the movie that kind of got shoved aside once The Exorcist blew up. Ardent, MASH was so good. There's some great episodes. The first season is my favorite, though. The first season is so politically incorrect and funny. Oh my God. The first season's the best. I love the first season. And then slowly it just gets more and more maudlin. But Frank Burns, the greatest foil ever on television. I love Frank Burns. Every episode with Frank Burns is utter gold, 9 times out of 10. But when Frank left the show, that's when it really went downhill. Bleach Demon. True Lies is based on a French film, La Totale. La Totale. Carl, True Lies was a remake. Yes, it was, apparently. Oh, based on a French film. It's not a bad movie. I don't mind it. A Star is Born from 1954 was a remake. Hot Lips Houlihan. Oh, God, says Ardent. A Star is Born in 1976. Well, obviously that's the remake. I remember, but didn't realize that 1954 with Judy Garland was already a remake. Holy cow. And then the current one. So there's 3 of them. The Hills Have Eyes, remake in 2006. Cinderella, another classic thing they've remade a million times. Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, that's a remake. Remake. Dumbo, totally pointless remake. Aladdin, another pointless remake. Lady and the Tramp. Ugh, why would they remake that? I don't know. Disney confounds me. There's The Lion King, Homeward Bound, The Incredible Journey. When a Stranger Calls. Don't remember that. Lolita in 1997. Not sure if they would make that today or make it and promote the hell out of it. It is what it is. Mulan, another movie they never should have made. The Jungle Book. Hannibal. This was the TV series. A lot of people love this series, mainly because I think Mads Mikkelsen is really good in it. Daredevil. This is the TV series. I hear great things, except for the 3rd season. Constantine, which technically was a remake of the TV series. Now they're bringing back. They've switched up. It's so weird what they've done to Constantine. They gender swapped him in the Sandman TV series. I don't know why. And then they're bringing back Keanu to do another Constantine movie. And then you got this guy on the CW who did it for a while, and they brought him back. I think it's something, but I mean, talk about diluting the brand. The Departed, True Grit, that was really good, I gotta say. And I think the original one is good as well. Ardent Mulan, the story of a Chinese cross-dresser. I guess. Oh, yeah, I guess that's technically true. Bleach Demon. I really like Constantine's show. It was closer to the comic. I mean, he definitely looks like Constantine. Keanu really didn't. And the woman they got doesn't really look like him. Ben-Hur in 2016. Yeah, that was a remake. Now, that was kind of a remake that maybe, yeah, because the other one was so old. Even though it was a classic, it was so old. Yeah, make it in color and have effects. Ocean's 11, that was a remake, of course. I didn't mind it. Not my kind of movie. Too many sequels, I think. Matt Ryan played Constantine on Legends of Tomorrow. Says Ardent. Carl, I thought Constantine movie was okay-ish. I didn't mind the Keanu Reeves movie. I thought it was alright. I like the storyline they used. The Hustle with Anne Hathaway and Rebel Wilson. I don't know what that is. Scarface. Footloose? They remade Footloose? Why? Dirty Dancing. They remade that in 2017. For some reason, Fright Night. I do remember them remaking that. And number 100, The Stepfather. I don't know what that is. And it just goes downhill from there. So I think we'll stop this list. And time to wrap. Time to wrap this because I got to hit the bathroom with the 15 worst the 15 worst reboots and remakes of all time. This is from The Richest. I don't know this website, but I thought the list was okay. Thought we'd end on this. It would be fun to mock these movies. All right, number 15, The Amazing Spider-Man. I didn't see it. I mean, I didn't want to see it. I did really enjoy Andrew Garfield in the most recent Spider-Man movie, though. Or the one where there's 3 Spider-Man. That was good. Total Blackout Painting. Hello, welcome. Man, I just got here. Oh, no. Well, sorry. Thanks for coming in, though. You're here for the big list. Number 14, Around the World in 80 Days? This was a 2004 adaptation. Steve Coogan? How could this be bad? Steve Coogan is a genius. I'm shocked. I will say, instead of watching this, watch Hamlet 2, because Steve Coogan is absolutely unhinged in that movie, and it's great. Clash of the Titans. Oh, this was bad. This was bad. Very bad. It's a wonder that Sam Worthington continued to get work after this. Oz the Great and Powerful, another unnecessary movie. This was with James Franco. I had absolutely zero desire to see this. It just looked like nothing. Bleach Demon, Around the World as interesting. Is interesting. Blackout, so bad. Ardent, Hamlet 2 was great. It's so funny. It's so great. Steve Coogan in that movie is at his peak. He really is. And he's so good in Tropic Thunder, but you know what happens to him. Bleach Demon. Hey there, TBP. The Lady Killers with Tom Hanks and Damon Wayans? This was made by the Coen brothers, and it's bad? What happened? What happened, Coen brothers? Well, no one's perfect, I guess. Anyone see this? I vaguely remember this movie. Ardent, Franco sucks bees. I don't know. I think he's bad, a bad actor. I think he's... I'll tell you what Franco's great in, but he's playing himself, is This Is the End. This Is the End is one of my favorite movies ever, which kind of like pains me now because I can't stand Seth Rogen anymore. And to some extent, some of the other people who appeared in that film, but my God, is that a funny movie. I love that movie. Carl says, I'll have to check out Hamlet too. You really do. It's really, really amazing. Before movies stop being funny. And, yeah, wow, the Coen brothers made a bad film, huh? I don't know. Nightmare on Elm Street, yep, very unnecessary. Bleach Demon. When compared to the original with Alec Guinness, the remake of Lady Killers is just bland and boring. Ah, okay. So it's kind of like, well, there's another one on this list. I don't want to say Planet of the Apes. We've been over that, you know. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I guess. I mean, look, making a movie of these characters at all, eh. You know, I like the Ninja Turtles in the comic, in the original black and white comic. Beyond that, you know, it's just like, hooray for these guys making money, I guess. But my God, how much more turtle stuff? People are obsessed with it, though. Twitter ruined Seth Rogen. Yep. Yeah, it did. It's a shame. Because I really felt like Seth Rogen was, you know, as a guy who's written comedy his whole life, he was in, like, my clubhouse, I felt. And to watch him go woke was just another, like, oh, man, this is tough to watch. It was tough to watch him just go so woke, you know? It really was. And now I see his name attached to a project and I just go, no, is there no way. Especially after that Santa thing. My God. What a embarrassing thing. At least the Preacher show was pretty decent, and he wasn't really in it. I guess he was just producing, but Ardent Dankula ruined Seth Rogen. Nice. Blackout. Lamau, true. Dank owned Rogan. He really did. That was it. That was it for him. He should get out of comedy. I'm serious. Seth Rogen should announce, I'm out of comedy and never do comedy again after that. Because he knew better. He knew better than to start that fight on Twitter and lose it like he did. When you lose a fight that bad, you're out of comedy. You're just out of comedy. You know? But he was never a stand-up guy. And you got to do stand-up. I did it for a short time, off and on. But at least I did it. I guess Rogan never really did. I don't think so. He could. But Ardent, does the Netflix Marvel Daredevil series count as a reboot? Yeah, because before that you got Ben Affleck Daredevil. Carl, excuse my best ignorance, but what happened with Seth Rogen? Seth Rogen kind of basically went woke on Twitter in a spectacular way, where he just kept clowning himself over and over again. He kept getting into fights on Twitter. He would make ridiculous announcements, like the time he announced, I believe this was him, his car got broken into, right? And then that was no big deal. That was just the price of living in the big city. And everybody was just like, dude, you're just in denial. Like, LA's full of crime and it's getting worse. And now, I mean, that's really aged poorly. But he got into an argument with Count Dankula on Twitter. And, like, Dank is he's a working stand-up comic, right? He does, I mean, he's in Scotland, but he's doing gigs semi-regularly, at least. And he does his videos and whatnot. So he got into an argument with him and basically pulled the old, well, you're nobody card. And, man, it looked bad. It just looked really bad. And Dankula torched him. Yeah, nobody was saying, oh, go get him, Seth Rogen. No. Dank won that argument hands down, in my view. Bleach. Demon Meth Rogan torched himself harder than an incinerator on the sun. Yeah, I mean, it's just sad to watch. And then he said a bunch of other woke stuff and gotten into arguments with people. And I think he announced he was getting off of Twitter at one point or wasn't coming back for a while. All the terrible celebrity things celebrities have done on Twitter. I think Seth Rogen has done them all. And in a short period of time, too. I think he did all those things within like a year or two. And now, I don't know, I guess he's off Twitter now. Or just has his agent finally told him, you can't be on Twitter anymore. The last time he was on, I think, was around that Christmas special, which really was just awful. Blackout. Dank is the lord of the shit posters. He certainly is. Yeah, he did this terrible Christmas special with Sarah Silverman, and it was just awful. Like, it was really mean and vicious and vulgar and stupid, and but you know, they were, the people in it were touting it as edgy and cool, but no one, you know, they just couldn't read the room, because and Sarah Silverman, for my money, was one of the dirtiest comics back when she was coming up. And I met her in the early days before she was big, and I was just impressed by her bravado, quite frankly. But man, she would say the filthiest effing things ever. She was like Buddy Hackett level of filth, which is fine. I'm not trashing her for it. But then to see her go kind of woke, or mostly woke, and then lecture other people, was just like, come on. Do you remember where you came from, Sarah? It's just such a hypocrisy. At least Seth Rogen could argue maybe he was never down in the comedy trenches like Sarah was, but Carl, not a fan of Sarah Silverman. Yeah, it's like another one too. Like, she got big, and then, you know, she kept doing like acting gigs, and not. She did some comedy, and when you look at the stuff at, you know, the most recent comedy stuff she did, besides the roast, I guess, and was her TV show where she did blackface and dressed up as Hitler, and then to see her go woke, it's like, whoa. There were a couple of moments during the whole Louis C.K. thing, who I think she's friends with, where she sort of she didn't go after him, but she kind of almost defended him, and it was like, oh, maybe she's seeing the light. Maybe she realizes cancel culture and all this wokeness stuff is bad, but then she kind of like backed off. Sarah Silverman had a great cameo at the beginning of the movie Way of the Gun, LOL. When she got punched in the face. I didn't see it. I don't think I saw Way of the Gun. I forget which movie that is. Carl, is The Way of the Gun good? Oh, if you like to see Sarah Silverman get punched in the face, I guess. Way of the Gun. I know I've heard of that movie. I can't think of what it is. But continuing with the horrible list, Arthur. Yeah, the remake of Arthur. As much as I do, I still like Russell Brand. And I think he's funny. And this wasn't even a bad casting choice, but Dudley Moore, you know, knocked it out of the park. And I don't think they should have even remade this movie. It just, there's another movie of its time. I don't think Russell Brand could fill those shoes. Terminator Genesis. Ugh. Yeah. That was, I mean, not as bad as Woke Terminator, I guess. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't see this one either. Seen the clips. I mean, it pretty much wrecks everything after Terminator 2. I mean, why? Why even bother? The Women is a remake of a 1939 movie based on a stage play, which was acclaimed for being groundbreaking and focusing on a look at a batch of women friends as they try to help one of their group when she realizes her husband is cheating on her. Carl, not a fan of Russell Brand either, to be honest. I think he was good in, was it Forgetting Sarah Marshall? And then he did his own movie with Jonah Hill, and that was all right. That was pretty watchable. I mean, I think he can be good in the right role. But Arthur, he shouldn't. That was no way. I would have just said, you're not going to be better than the original. What's the point? So I didn't see this movie. Doesn't sound great. Sounds like Sex in the City. It was basically Sex in the City as at the time of its time, only much smarter. Yeah. Part of the problem with a movie like this is cheating on your ex isn't that big a deal anymore. So back in 1939, that would have been like, oh my God, that's outrageous. Oh, let's watch this movie. In the 2020s, like, cheating's barely a thing for some women. Ardent, only reason I watched Genesis was Emilia Clarke. Here it is. I knew I would get to it. The Wicker Man. Just the still is hilarious with Nick Cage. Yeah. Another movie they probably should have never remade. And not with Nick Cage. But was this before or after he lost all his money? Cage gives a performance that makes Al Pacino at his worst look like the model of quiet subtlety. Oh, come on. That's unfair to Al Pacino. He can be good. He can be very subtle when he wants to be. Godzilla. I think this is the 90s one, right? The one where he lays eggs and everything. Matthew Broderick. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't even think they should be remaking Godzilla, but what are you going to do? Fantastic Four. Which one was this? I guess this was the most recent one? Not the one with Nick Cannon? Is there one with Nick Cannon? One after that? I don't know. They've made so many. And, of course, Psycho. The remake of Psycho. It's a crime against movies, I say. Should never been made. Why Gus Van Sant, ostensibly an indie guy, would do this unless, like, I don't know. I guess if you were really tight for cash, right? You'd be like, well, this is the only thing they're offering me, and maybe I'll do it. And he does a shot-for-shot remake? Why? Why would you do that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Was he just saying, I'll fulfill my contractual obligation to the letter and take my money and run? Like, how did he think this movie would be received? Ardent, Fant or for stick? Don't know what you're saying. Bleach Demon, da. Blackout. All of the Fantastic Four movies pale in comparison to the Roger Corman one. Yeah, that's what I've heard. As Mark Waid once said, it's 90 minutes of your life you'll never get back. Because he saw it back in the day, like before anyone else did. Because he was sort of piped into the comic book world. I don't think he was working on. He wasn't that big. It was before Kingdom Come and definitely before he went woke. But I interviewed Mark Waid one time, eons ago. Me or my co-host did on my old comic TV show. He was a nice guy back then. He was nice to me. I don't know what happened. People go woke, and they just, I don't know. It just breaks them. But yeah, this movie, no. Right, Joan? Joan agrees. All right, Joan is giving me the signal that I got to wrap it up. So final thoughts on remakes. Did we learn anything tonight? Well, I mean, just like any other thing, I guess remakes and reboots can go either way, right? It's not necessarily. I always thought it was like you should only remake or reboot movies that weren't that great. But there's all sorts of, just like everything else in life, there's all sorts of variations, right? I mean, Remo Williams is a decent movie, and I think they should do more of them and reboot it. So, it's ultimately, though, the studios take them too far. And you can see that from the list. I mean, there's just so many that were so unnecessary. But nobody knows what's going to work. Carl says, go woke and become an a-hole. Yeah. Ardent, later, brother. Great stream. Thanks for coming in. Ardent, really appreciate it. Thanks for everybody who came in. And what else is coming up? More videos. I will be... Where am I going this time? I'm going to the Pennsville Library on Tuesday in South Jersey. And on Saturday, I'm going to Whim's Brewery at 2 p.m. It's on Saturday? Better double check that one. So that's it for me, Tony D, and Little Joan. If you guys got any suggestions for next week, let me know in the comments or in the other comments. I'm sure we'll come up with something next week. Yeah, we'll come up with something. All right, I'm going to end it here, and we'll see you next time. Aloha, Blackout. I got to pee so bad.